Thank you. I'm so happy that I get to sit and talk to Jane today and ask you questions. And I think we're going to have questions from the audience at the end. But Jane,
yeah, me too. Yeah,
I know it's so nice to see. And obviously Jane is a hero. But I feel like you're like a big sister of mine in film and someone that I admire. But also that after meeting you, I was so happy that you were so warm and encouraging and welcoming, and of course your work means so much to me, so I'm so happy to see you and talk to you.
When I first went to LA, I think Meg was hosting me, and she said, would you like to invite, or do you want to meet anyone you want, who could you want to meet? And I said, I want to meet Sofia, because I love her film Virgin Suicides. It's amazing. And so yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, yeah, I'll try not to gush too much and get to some questions, but you're such a hero. And I just growing up in the 70s and 80s with a lot of macho dude directors, and then, you know, Jane came out and was like just as strong as them in her own way, made such a huge impression on me and was so encouraging that to tell my point of view. So thank you for that, for being a cool powerhouse. But I was so thrilled to see your film last night, to see it on the big screen. It was so beautiful and so intense, and it shows all these things under the surface that I feel like you see in families and in life, but it's hard to articulate. So to see that, you're so great at expressing that, and I really felt what the characters were going through, and so much with Kirsten and her experience. And I remember years ago I remember you telling me about a book that you were trying to get the rights and you were thinking of, and it sounded like there was a process, or it wasn't just obvious that you just got this book. How did you find this book, and how did you start this process?
Yeah, so I think the how did it all begin story is always really interesting when it comes to a film. And I had the joy of just reading The Power of the Dog as a novel. And that's something I found harder and harder to do, is like find a novel that I just love.
How did you find it?
My stepmother, my dad's second wife, sent it to me because she teaches English and she's a big lover of books. And so she just, sent it to me in Sydney and said, hey, you might like this. And I looked at it and went, oh, okay. And I just read it. And when I say read it, I mean I read it from beginning to end, like really quickly, because it has a really propulsive kind of storytelling in it, but also had the feeling like the person who wrote this lived it. And then I had this wonderful afterword by Annie Proulx, who I adore. I mean, Tits Up in the Ditch is like one of my absolutely favourite short stories. Yeah. And she put in perspective who Thomas Savage was, and as a gay man back in born in 1915.
When was the book written?
The book was 1967. Yeah. So actually several people had tried to or had owned the rights to the book, but they never found that moment to make it. And Paul Newman was one of the interested parties. Wow. Yeah. So I wasn't really thinking about making a film. I was like exhausted from doing the Top of the Lake series. And, you've just finished that and you're like, oh, shit, that was like a lot of work. I just killed myself. So I wasn't really, but everyone else was talking about what they were doing next, and I was feeling like left out.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel like I should have a better creation story, like a better attitude to it. But there's this big unwillingness part in me, and there's this big because once I get my teeth on a bone, I can't let go. Yeah. And that feeling, like if you're going to do it, it has to be done well, and it's going to take everything out of you. Yeah. So you're ginger. I feel a bit gingery about will I do it? But I couldn't stop thinking about the themes in the book. This book starts off with how to castrate a cow, a steer, and from the point of view of an experienced rancher, and it just went like, oh my God. Okay, so we're neuting masculinity, that's pretty interesting, like right off. And you know, that was the beginning. And we did actually start the film that way too, but it felt like it would be better to use it as like they're doing that castrating as Peter arrives at the ranch.
Oh, yeah. Was that real, the film?
No.
I looked away.
Yeah, no, they're all fake things. And cow, it's like there's a lot of protection in place for animals, which I think is great.
Yeah.
So that selfish, greedy filmmakers can't just do whatever they want. And
when you were editing, had you tried opening it with that and decided?
Yeah, we did try.
The script started with that.
I knew that, but there was many reasons. I just felt the beginning of the film was too long. It's like someone was talking today about, like how do you know, once you've filmed your film, how do you come to find the shape again in the editing?
Do you always work with the same editor?
Oh, this was really a new experience with a guy called Peter Scribberus, who was just amazing. And we were doing it in the middle of the pandemic. So the relationship started, like both of us felt quite shy because it's very intimate, the editing experience, don't you think?
Yeah.
And like, you feel a bit ashamed of what you've managed to get.
Yeah. You're like, this is what we've brought. Yeah. I always feel like it's a mess.
Sorry about this. There's a lot of mistakes. And, you know.
Yeah. I always work with the same one, so there's a comfort in showing the mess, and they help you put it together. But I can imagine, with someone.
Like, I'm like,
were you
and
doing
also
it
it's like all these guys, you know, it's like just guys. I mean, I was you know what I think guys are. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it's a guy editor.
There were two guys, a guy assistant and a guy editor, and I didn't know either of them, so I got myself a sidekick woman.
Oh yeah,
Priska, who was like I was supposed to be mentoring, but she's already like a genius anyway. So to sit next to me and hold my hand, more or less. I mean, you see what a baby I am, but
no, that's good to know that.
Yeah, and then like getting myself comfortable. You know how hard it is. Like if I'm not comfortable, I can't handle things.
Yeah.
So I know to do that, to just be a little bit weird and get what I need.
But are you more comfortable on set than in the editing room?
Well, I ended up being like super comfortable. I loved Peter in the end, but all I got to know was like his head looking down because we had to have, he was in I think Sydney when we started, or Melbourne when we started.
You were doing it remotely?
We started remotely,
wow.
And then he had to come to New Zealand and be for 2 weeks in quarantine, and there was just sort of this head looking down as he was working.
Wow.
And we got kind of into this just gorgeous thing where it's just the work. We're just going like, hate that shot. Like, yeah, it doesn't do much, next one.
Were you on the same page right away? Like
very much so. And we both had the same attitude. Like, it's the work. Let's just do it.
But you like the same performances and shots.
Yes, that's a very. Yeah. That would be scary.
Yeah, that would be.
Have you ever had that?
No, I worked with Sarah so long that we're on the same page. But I remember having an editor once that didn't have good rhythm, so I'd always be like, I wanted them to cut one place and it wasn't. But no, luckily I worked with the same one a long time. But how did you pick him?
Well, I liked the work that he'd done for David Michaud on, I think it's The War Machine and The King, but more so that David Michaud just said, this is the best human being ever in the world, and I love him, and it's the reason why I can handle shooting. So I thought that was pretty high praise, and when I met him, he is a really funny guy. And when we finally got in the room together, even though there's a few shy moments,
you got in your groove.
Yeah, it was really fun, and he's just an amazing human who looks after all his crew and is such a kind. And I learned so much from him. He's such a kind person. Yeah.
And that's so cool. But how did it work with shooting during the pandemic? And didn't you guys get shut down? How long did you have a break? How did the shoot work?
The shoot worked like we started off with our exteriors, and as you can see, it was an enormous build, and it was really terrifying to me that I think we started the build in September and we were shooting in January.
The ranch house?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And the barn and the yards, the cattle yards. I mean, everything had to be aged as well as conceived as a 1920, or actually 1895 kind of, or 1885 building.
Wow.
I was working with Grant Major, who not only did Angel at My Table, that was our first,
Oh,
almost
wow.
our first project together.
Have you always worked together?
No,
Oh.
but this was a second opportunity, and he was like a big lover of the script, so
That's so
he
cool.
really got him on to it. He also did Lord of the Rings, so
Wow.
quite capable.
So he had it. Yeah, he had a team.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legendary New Zealander. He's like Hillary, Edmund Hillary. He's just like so understated, and his work ethic is like scary. He starts at 7 a.m. and finishes at 7 p.m. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah. But you want that kind of person on your team.
Yeah, you want them on your team. Yeah.
So you started with All the Ranch, and then how long did you film, and how long was your break?
What happened was that we finished the exteriors of the shoot, which was kind of extraordinarily lucky, and I was very anxious going into it because we really had no wet weather cover. I don't know if you've done a film with a lot of
Weather issues.
it makes you very anxious because you're
Yeah.
always going like, oh, are we going to be shooting this today or not today, or
Yeah. But because the interiors were in another.
their interiors were going to be in Auckland, and we had one day we had to shift around, and there was a half day that we thought we might be able to shoot, but actually we got through, and the weather like gave us all its blessings, and
Did you do a ritual before?
we did actually.
Okay.
We got a Maori blessing.
Oh, good.
Yeah, by some gorgeous Maori elders from the area, and it does actually really focus everybody in such a beautiful way. And we did a hangi, and
Yeah.
they did a prayer for us.
Oh, that's good.
They couldn't imagine doing a prayer for COVID, so
Yeah.
they fixed the weather.
Oh, good.
And then when we finished that exterior shoot, I remember saying, was it maybe to you, Tanya, or to you, Ari? Oh my God, I'm so relieved that's over
have to
now.
be
What
shut.
can go wrong now?
Oh, no.
And I really did say that. And then 2 weeks later, we were shut down. I mean, it happened so fast. And
Yeah.
even as remote as New Zealand is,
Wow.
we had a week in between, and our crew went off to, Australia and America.
And the actors went back home.
Yeah, and then we were like going, oh my God, some of them are gone. And, like, oh no, and now COVID and blah.
And then how long
it
did
took about 3 or 4 or 5 days to test for COVID. But we thought we could get through. But then I think a few days into the shooting, it just became more and more clear that this was a worldwide catastrophe event, that people were dying, and that,
Yeah.
we were shut down, and the whole country was shut down, and it was like that for about 10 weeks. But we have this amazing Prime Minister,
Yeah.
Jacinda Ardern, and she just really got on and organised it so that the shutdown was so thorough that in 10 weeks later the country was clean of COVID.
And you started right back after a few months?
I think it was more like 3 months, was it?
Wow. But did you know when you were going to be able to start again? Or you
Not
just
exactly.
Kind of,
We had to do a little bit of like, I tried to do some political work, talking to ministers and begging and carrying on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to lose all my actors,
Yeah, I can't imagine that hitting in the middle of a shoot.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways you're so exhausted when you're shooting that you're sort of like, oh, I can sleep
Yeah.
for 10 weeks. That's incredible.
Yeah. Maybe we should always.
And there was a part of the
it.
whole shutdown process for me that was like I'd never experienced before, being so relaxed.
Oh, just
like not knowing not having to do anything.
Yeah,
all day, and not knowing what I was going to do, or knowing I wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah. It was like a snow day you get to stay in and not have to be productive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so like I always feel like a little anxiety in my body, like what's next,
Oh.
Or like, oh, I'm late for this next thing.
Yeah.
I have told myself I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's hard to. I feel like it's hard to really take a day off. I didn't know if that was universal, but even like I even feel guilty seeing movies during the day, even though it's like, this is my job. that should be work. But I hear my mother's voice saying, it's beautiful. You should be outside. You shouldn't be inside watching a movie.
That's what there should be. So they sort of like dissolved a bit.
Yeah.
And, hopefully that will stay with me forever now that, I just don't have to have the next thing haunting me.
Do you
feel
feel
much looser?
Now, can you enjoy that you've made this beautiful film and you can take a break, or do you have that pressure and anxiety of what's the next thing?
I don't have that.
Well, you not yet. Okay.
No, I don't have that at the moment.
No.
Like I think I feel like I learned. I mean, it's probably not. I don't know if you guys are interested in personal stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like I learned something making this film that was really precious to me, and it was about how I focus. And like one of my ways of living had been like work really hard and then just like flop down,
Yeah.
and like just like lose brain cells on a daily basis, so I was like hardly able to put a sentence together by the end of a month or something.
So just one extreme to the other.
Yeah, from one extreme to the other, and it didn't feel like it was the greatest way to be. But what I found about what I learned on this project was how nice it is to cherish your focus and keep your energy up and not have this idea of like flopping down. I've got to flop down, please let me, and just to really enjoy that actually, to lead a life you need energy and focus all the time. And
to pace yourself and like when you were shooting.
And actually it's just not about the shooting, but when I'm not doing this film now, I still use my, energy and focus, but it's just
towards something
else.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to do that. Oh, I'm retiring now. Oh, I'm like unplugging.
Yeah.
I'm depowering. And that's.
But do you have certain
to life?
But are there things you do to like charge your battery, in between things, or you just?
Well, I used to just unplug.
Yeah. But did you feel when you were shooting, it was a different experience? Do you enjoy shooing?
Yes.
Or is it like a marathon?
I do sometimes enjoy shooting. Sometimes it feels like such a marathon. It's like, oh, what scene is it today? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I remember always checking out.
That's really disappointing, but I mean, other times, it's as much as it. And if it's a scene you really care about, that's really
exciting
tough.
to see. Yeah.
It's really tough because you really want to enjoy working on it, but you know how crucial the scene is. So you're just going like, gee, I hope we all get this together. Because the film will be fucked if we don't.
I love the scene where Kirsten and Jesse are dancing.
That's
outside.
The scene.
Oh my God, that made me cry. It was so touching. Was that in the book?
Yes, it is in the book. I mean, they don't dance in the book. He just walks off a little bit and says that.
And you just thought of adding the dancing?
Add that, yeah.
Oh, it was so touching.
Yeah, I always had this sort of feeling of the little wedding couple on top of the cake.
Yeah.
And we were going to make it snow, and then I just thought the colours were so lovely the way they were, and
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know why I was worried. When you work with Jesse Plemons, who's just so grounded and so present always, he's just such a gift.
He's great.
And also with Kirsten, that they just bring that beautiful energy and focus to things. And
they were so
also that was a difficult scene. There's a lot of material being shot there, and we all in the end we all had to shoot it within about an hour and a half.
That one scene.
Yeah, for the light,
Oh, it looked beautiful.
Yeah, and I was going like, I wish I could think of a way of doing this in one shot. Like, I'm such a failure. Why can't I think of things like that? You know how you think? Like, why wasn't it in one shot? Like that's what a real director would do, right?
No.
I would figure it out. But then I just thought, maybe I'm not a real director, but I'll do it this way.
Do you? One of the things that gives me the most anxiety is coverage and like the math.
My God, I can't believe you're saying that because I so admire your coverage. It feels so effortless.
Oh my God, thank you. I feel like it's like an algebra problem. It's so, that stresses me out.
You make algebra look so easy.
Oh no, thank you.
Yeah,
but I think that's the hardest.
It's the hardest thing. I mean, I
you
cherish the days when I didn't understand that there was such a thing as coverage. When I first started making films, I was like Super 8, and I thought, if what I'm looking at is in the frame, this is a success.
That's true.
And it's also exposed.
Yeah.
And we would actually go like, hooray, we got exposure, on the Super 8 camera.
Yeah.
And then I remember someone saying to me, like, who'd been to the London Film School, like this big guy. He said, he looked at it and, I was like, showing it to everybody.
Yeah.
Look at this, I've done it. And he said, have you thought about using some wide shots? I'm like, what's he talking about? What's the matter with them? They're all in the same frame.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get that concept. And then when I got the concept, there was all these different lenses. I was like, oh shit.
Option.
Oh, this is destroying the fun completely. Oh,
I know.
no, what a lot of choices. And I've never got over that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
so-
still, if there's a dinner scene, which I've done a million times, I still have a panic.
You still freak out because
Yeah.
it's so complicated.
With all the people around a table. That's so.
Like how many sides you have to shoot for the eye line. And
It's so confusing.
And I spent hours thinking about coverage.
Really?
I mean, Ari and I spent a month solidly just sharing the problem.
Sorry. How did you meet Ari, and is this the first time you've worked together?
Yeah, we did work on a commercial together. Ari was a friend of an assistant of mine who's also a filmmaker, Paola Morabito. Does anyone know her here? She actually is the most connected person in the world. I'd be really surprised if it wasn't someone here who doesn't know her. But she told me about Ari and raved me about her and how I had to meet her, and then we did. And so I only made one commercial, and she worked on it.
It was so beautiful. I loved how you shot with the chair coming out and the super, like the really tight close-ups. And did you find the look as you were making it, or did you have an idea before of what you thought?
Yeah, it's
would
something
look like?
that Ari and I really talked about a lot and discussed. Actually, we were looking at, I think, a DOP's work that you worked with.
Yeah,
Harry Savides. We were haunting him.
Oh,
we
I
were
loved
like
Harris.
following him and going like, and he just talked about economy, like just making
Keep it simple, he always said.
keeping it really simple. But
Yeah.
of course, his idea of simplicity is so beautiful.
Yeah.
But that voice was really in my ear. Like, just keep it simple and keep the shots going as long as you can.
Yeah.
That was
like what's the information, like the short information.
Yeah.
the economy of storytelling.
Yeah.
I think it's really what I treasure.
Yeah. I love that about the
Yeah.
film.
But I'm so surprised to hear you struggle with that.
Coverage.
Yeah.
Well, Harris, when I worked with Harris, we were like, how do we shoot something as simply as we can with the least amount of coverage? And we made this assignment on my film somewhere, and it was so fun to think about how few shots we could actually tell a story in, and that was the part that bogged us down. And I love his idea of just keep it simple and how simply you can tell a story, and it's a fun exercise.
I mean, sometimes I also sort of struggle with points of view. Like, I felt like our story, because of the book, really zones in on different characters' point of view. So
does it
you get
switch
close to them.
between?
Yeah, it does really a little bit. And we certainly, and Tanya and I were thinking about how best to organise the script to really take that in there. Like, I love the sort of quality of the figure of 8 that you get through switching continuously, the points of view, and telling the story that way. So we had to keep, coming in on a character. And also because Ben's character, Benedict Cumberbatch's character, is a very difficult character to like. And a lot of people might say, oh, he's so awful, I don't want to watch what he's up to or doing.
I thought he was fascinating, and he's so scary, but then I love that you showed where his pain was coming from.
Yeah.
And you don't usually see the villain's wounds, I think, in that way. And I loved how it shifted, and I didn't realize that the boy would be such a central character. When you were shooting a scene, did you know, in this scene, what's focused on Kirsten? Okay, this scene's going to be told from her point of view. Did you know which character's point of view you were in a particular section?
Yes, a section would begin when Kirsten arrived at the homestead, and she was getting to know the place. So we took her point of view, so we get to know the place, through her eyes. And, the piano was coming in, and that whole challenge to sort of try and be someone who could play for the governor.
I love when he was taunting her with the banjo. It was so heart-wrenging and awful.
Yeah, and that sort of underground way of him ghosting her and
unhinging,
destabilizing her. Yeah,
you're so
awful.
good. You're so good at that. It reminded me also of Harvey Keitel, and just that character in the piano, that that character so well. Is it based on? And you don't have to say. Are they ever based on people?
Well,
experience.
I didn't know myself for a long time how deep this story goes for me, but I actually had an evil nanny.
Oh.
Who was like from the age of 5 to the age of about 11. My sister and I had to deal with her, and she was real bitch, or real cunt, I have to say. And she was a disturbed person, and she would like separate us from our parents and not let us near them, and we were told we were never allowed to say anything about her, and also she would get violent, and she actually whipped me once,
Oh, wow.
with a horsewhip. And had welts on it. And she said, if you ever tell anybody, I'm gonna, blah blah blah. So she lived in our house, and it was. She
Scary
was like
force.
we had to handle this horrible other secret world that we didn't want to, but we were so afraid.
Wow.
I was really afraid that even if I told my parents, they wouldn't believe us. So in a way, I understood.
That.
I realised.
that feeling.
I know Phil.
Wow.
I really know Phil.
So-
from the other side. And,
Yeah.
I remember always knowing where she was in the house, Like, I would think, oh, she's up in that bedroom. Okay, so I can be okay here.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
And
So it was
scary.
actually really haunting. And, she actually died from some disease. It was really tragic and horrible, but we didn't care. We were so happy she was dead.
I knew it was the scary nanny.
And then my mum said to us, because she actually got on really well with she was my brother's another mother.
Oh.
And, it was all like love between them, and just like it was really horrible because it sort of made us hate him a bit too.
Oh, because the nanny was nice to your brother, but not
Looking
the
after
girls?
my brother, she came to look after him as a baby, yeah.
Oh.
And then, when she did die, my mum came into the room. I can just remember her coming and saying like, oh, I'm really sorry to tell you this terrible news.
And you guys rejoiced.
Iris is dead. And it was like the wicked witch has died. We went like,
and she had no idea.
we're happy,
And your mother had no idea?
And she was like,
Wow.
she was saying, oh, you girls. And then she said, well, you're going to come to the funeral. He said, we will not. We are happy she's dead. We're happy she's dead.
The witch is gone.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
It was a big thing for our family. I think my parents never really wanted to acknowledge that it actually happened.
Yeah.
I remember, anyway.
Yeah, I'm
it's a sad
sure.
story.
Intense. Wow.
Yeah.
How did
and that's why I'm so weird and difficult.
No. But yeah, it definitely feels like you're in touch with the dark side in a good way.
But it's funny how I didn't see that
Until
to
later.
start with. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like...
But there's an attraction to it because you somehow know you know. But
do you feel like with projects you're attracted to them and then later you see why you were?
Well,
or do you try to
in this
understand
case,
it?
I didn't get
Yeah.
it until later.
Yeah.
I mean, it was before I was filming, but it took me a while to get my actual personal connection because I'm a little bit like, oh no, I'm not. This is a good story.
Yeah. Do you try
I'm
to?
a little bit in denial about a lot of things.
I think that's a good state for a director because then you just get into it later. You analyze it.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I totally like that. I don't understand. I try not to understand why I'm into something and just follow that. And then after I'm like, oh, and then I understand it later. But I try. I think you don't want to be self-conscious when you're working. You want to just get into that
true.
world, right?
I think it's a little bit like falling in love. You're cherishing the love.
Yeah.
And you don't want to pick it apart.
Yeah.
Or, there's a mystery to why you love a person or why you love a story. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you feel like there was another project that you were thinking about doing that you didn't end up doing? Do you at some point you realize if you have a connection to it or not? Have you ever done something and had to get out of it, or done something that you felt like you shouldn't have because you weren't totally into it?
Yeah, I early on I did. It's very important for me to try not to have those feelings. I like to get into material that doesn't suit me.
Yeah.
But I've made. I think it was called After Hours, and it was a short film that I made for the Women's Film Unit. And I had such a great idea for them to do, and they didn't like doing it because they wanted to do something with more like sexual abuse in it. And the story that I had was so poetic, and they decided that wasn't what they wanted to do. My idea was these 7 working women, going to the funeral of one of their colleagues, in a boat in Sydney Harbour, like they were going to scatter the ashes with the pimp in the boat, the whole scene all dressed in black, you know.
Yeah.
And then just the sort of arguments and the discussions that came out of that situation.
That sounds cool.
I know, it's cool. Right? I don't know why they didn't get it.
Don't they know you're Jane Campion? Like, you should do it.
Yeah.
Do whatever
So
you
anyway,
want.
I ended up doing this one, which was sort of like more, I think the themes were too obvious for me. I didn't like them because of that. Like, you know, what's there to know? Sexual abuse is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't. You knew that it wasn't.
Yeah, just sort of, I kept thinking like, you know.
Yeah. That's a good sign not to.
Yeah, the sign. I mean, you know, the film was like, people liked it. It won the competition or whatever, but it was a lesson to me, you know.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I remember you talking about how you did maybe a commercial or something, and I remember you writing to me saying like, I did it for greed and I shouldn't have, like you were aware of like that. And I always remember that I have to be really aware of why I'm doing something that.
That was the one that we did together.
Yeah. We all have those.
Yeah, they always come up with these like corny excuses for doing,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is female empowerment, you know, like it's an ANZ Bank and these little girls giving out quotes
Yeah.
about
Can be corny.
how bad the world is.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, oh, that's quite a good reason.
Yeah, I know.
How much you pay me again?
Yeah, I know. But it's fun to do the short things that you get to work with people and try things out. But yeah, you have to be. Wait, how did you meet Tanya? And have you guys been doing? How long have you been doing films together? Her producer that seems to be.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's Tanya Sagetchian, who's just sitting here. Also is the.
Yeah, I think.
She's the producer of Cold War.
Beautiful film. Yeah.
And
is it the first? Is this the
Summer
first
of
film?
Love? Yeah.
Is this the first film you've done together?
It is. Actually, we worked on Bright Star together in a way because, as Tanya famously says, she yanked it out of the rubbish bin on the BFI. And I go, sure, it wasn't actually in the bin, Tanya. And she said, yes, it was. It's as good as in the bin. And anyway, she championed that film into existence. And I didn't realise that till later. So it was, you know, thanks to her that film happened. And then she came onto the set and a few times, and you know, there's a wild gypsy-looking woman there. And she even came on her birthday, which is like a really super weird thing to do. So, I mean...
Did you say, I love this book, help me figure it out? And
well, it was like, first of all, we became friends. Like, I invited her to come to my house and, you know, well, she says I just invited her to Sydney for Christmas. She didn't know whether I meant come to my house, you know, just like come to Sydney.
Yeah.
But I did mean come to my house. And so we that was the beginning, and we did a lot of funny things together as we got to know each other because we were both quite weird. And I took her on these walking trips that... She's not into walking. I love walking. But she wouldn't say anything, like would walk for 20 minutes and then she did this thing like, I can't go on. That's it. I just can't go on. I can't go on another step. And I said, well, we have to get back. But she did go on. And I think it's like one of the things that I find so important is it can be such a lonely process working on a film. It doesn't have to be. And if you can, so I know that. And
it's fun to do.
So I don't want to do it in that environment. And I, you know, like I want a producer that's with me every day if possible, or on the phone, or, you know, as much as possible, sharing the interest and the excitement and having fun together.
Yeah, that
and also another brain. I mean, and Tanya also worked on Crown, the first series of it, like working with Peter Morgan on, you know, how to structure that, and you know, like, so she's really great with script and stuff like that too, and it's incredibly helpful.
So as you were working on the script, you were showing her.
She really did everything.
No, but I think it's so helpful to have someone that you can bounce ideas off when you're writing. And was Tanya the first person that you're showing parts to and talking it through with?
Totally, and that's sort of like a big trust relationship. Yeah, it's quite full on.
Yeah, I feel like that's so important to have.
I think it's super important.
Yeah, how do you deal with all the self-doubt and that come up as a
Self-doubt.
do all writers?
Just like I said, I feel like often like, oh, what a useless director, you know.
What?
I often feel like, oh, what a useless director. At the end of the day, I think, like, why did they do that?
No.
You know, why did I forget that?
No.
Do you ever feel like that? Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I think I just try to get through it and somehow put it all together. But
I don't feel
the cheerleaders are
very
important.
great or very good. And, you know, filmmaking is about making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. Because, you know, basically you do many takes to get a chink, you know,
yeah, it's true.
of something good. So basically you're failing.
That makes me feel better.
So get used to it, right?
Yeah, that's true. Do you feel at the end like that your movie is what you set out to make ever? or turns into something else?
I think it turns into something else, but there, you know, the dreaming of it, the dreaming into it is like the marinating yourself and all the material as much as possible in your dream, hope for it. And then circumstance and the weather, the actors, everybody who contributes to the project take over and influence what in the end happens. And that's, I think, the magical alchemy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The actors were so incredible. And you talked a little bit about how you rehearsed with them and that you had them take dance lessons, the brothers. How long, will you tell us about that? How long you rehearsed for and
yeah, I mean,
such a cool idea about them.
Interesting thing. Do you rehearse, by the way?
Yeah, I do, but more like doing improv stuff and just having them spend time together, like a family or whatever.
Yeah, I actually copied your dad.
Oh yeah, well that's me too. But I learned that from him, and like to have the family actually make a meal together and just make these memories.
You know, like it's that 360 degrees sort of immersion feeling, like that they feel safe and confident to be that character.
Yeah, and I like
in
the idea
ordinary ways, like not to have to always do something, you know, amazeballs.
Yeah, and I like the idea that the actors make memories for the characters
in the body. Helpful to. I think a lot of the work is like creating circumstances and improvisations where they are able to make body memories that will help them. And obviously, that's their job too. To do it themselves.
But I love that you had the brothers do a waltz lesson.
I know. It's sort of like you feel like, oh, what are they going to say? Like, we don't want to waltz together, or you know, like that. You just go like, oh, now we're going to do the.
That's so.
Dance
and they have to trust each other in a way.
Yeah. Here's the choreographers come all the way to do this. Yeah.
So. Did you do any other? That's such a good far out.
Yeah, they love doing that, and it was so moving watching them take it really seriously because I think when people arrive in rehearsal, it's very exposing for them, and they're anxious. Like they think, oh, I could probably still lose a job.
Yeah. The pressure's on.
Pressure's on them, and you know, I like people to feel that I've got, you know, a really deep trust in their process because I don't expect them to be there immediately. And I've come to, you know, see that time and time again. It is a process, and that people take time to find themselves in the space. And obviously you've chosen them because you've seen them do lots of amazing things. Yeah.
When you're writing it, do you picture actors in your mind?
Not really, I have to say. Do you do that?
I do. I find it helpful. And they always end up, or someone I know, there's a quality that reminds me of someone, and I think of them.
Well, I had the book there, so it was a bit different, you know.
Yeah, and did you have to take a lot out of the book? It seemed like there was so much with those characters.
Yeah, I did have to take it. We took all the backstory out and just thought...
Bronco Henry. Was Bronco Henry a character in the book?
He was almost like a ghost in the book as well. Like there were stories told about him, but they were retrospectively placed. So he was, you know, in the book, he died in a kind of a stampede situation in the cattle yards. And I always had it in mind in my imagination that he was really in love with Phil. And, you know, when it's an awkward love affair and you're not sure the other person is returning the love, it really scatters your brain. Yeah. And so that he was like discombobulated because, you know, I would imagine that Phil could be quite hot and cold. Yeah. As a lover. And that, that he didn't have his wits about him, and that's how he came to be. Oh. I mean, that's just my story, but I used that one. That's how he came to die. Yeah.
So much going. Yeah, there's so
But I
much
also
going on.
really told myself that they had a very hot, sexy, beautiful time together. Like it was.
I love the scarf scene.
Yeah, like that they really, you know, when you when the sexual feeling comes up or a sexual urge comes up in relation to somebody or something, you know, it feels so natural that it must be good, right? And if it's returned, it must be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Right.
they would know, even though you know, homosexuality at the time was thought of as perverse and perverted, and you know, sodomy was illegal, but they would know that felt so fucking good that whatever anyone else felt, it
Right,
was,
they had
it
a
was true and
connection.
it was great, and you know, they had to hide it, and that might even the secrecy around it would make it even sexier, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did Jesse's character know what was going on in the book?
Yeah, we sometimes talk to Jesse about that. Jesse's character in the book didn't seem to know. He seemed to think they had a special connection.
Right. Yeah, I never, at the beginning, if it was like a
They
mentor.
sort of did, yeah. But I don't think Jesse's character is, I mean, it's so cute. He makes his one great move, you know,
Yeah.
and he gets his woman.
Yeah, that was so.
And so touching.
it was really touching.
And great to move away from Phil finally and have his own life.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised that
Yeah, had that
he
strength.
could do it.
Like,
yeah.
I guess, you know, he'd spending his whole life moving to that moment where he didn't,
He
he
got
didn't
up
need
off his
Phil
courage.
anymore. Yeah.
Does the book have their childhood in it, or?
It does, and
Yeah.
it's beautifully written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you had to. Yeah, it must have been a big editing process to.
Yeah, I think we made some early, very big shaped decisions.
Did you just?
Like we wouldn't go back. We wouldn't show Bronco Henry
Right.
physically. That we had to.
I
hold
love
in
how
our
he's
memory.
it goes and that you find out bits
Yeah.
as you go. And the idea of having the different chapters, was that how you wrote the script? And
Initially, it was like a seasonal story, like across one, you know, year.
Right.
But the seasons weren't very evident. I wouldn't really want to draw attention to them because you know we weren't able to shoot across the whole year.
right.
So I felt the need to actually have a breath, you know, and just came up with those chapter breaks.
Yeah. They were great. I love that, but I was wondering, how you decided to.
I think it was influenced by that thought. And I mean,
Yeah.
I was thinking at the time that Johnny Greenwood would have some great piece of music.
Oh yeah, how did you? I heard that you did the music by Zoom, like remote,
Yeah.
But how did you choose the composer and was that something?
Well, I've always
After or
loved Johnny
then?
Greenwood's music, but
Had you worked with him before?
No,
No.
just admired him. I mean, you know, like I admire the hell out of him and everything that Paul Thomas Anderson does. Like he's my hero. So, and you know, I feel like I'm his best audience. You know, I'm always going to love what he does.
Oh, that's cool.
But there was a piece. I was looking for Australia and New Zealand composers first off because that was like part of our financing structure.
Did you get finance help from the government?
We did get. It was call it soft money. That doesn't seem that soft to me. It's quite hard to get.
Oh really? But it seems like they have. It seems like they have a more of a program than we.
Yeah, there's a little
they
bit of
do.
a thing
Yeah.
going. And anyway, you also then have to get all your crew from Australia and New Zealand because it was a co-production. So I was looking around and I was looking at the Australian Chamber Orchestra, who are just freaking amazing, with Richard Tognetti. I don't know if there's anybody here that knows that group, but they're incredible. And I was listening to a piece called Water and going like, oh, freaking hell, this is so genius. This is the musical voice for the film. And then I realised it was actually Johnny Greenwood working with them.
Oh no way.
And that he had done a whole season of work with them. And then I went like, oh, Johnny Greenwood's just got to be my person. And so we sent him the script and we got a concession to use him because, you know, like I was going like, well, Michael Nyman and, you know, had
Right.
him and he wasn't New Zealand or Australian. I mean, I think that
Is Michael Nyman
I'm not like super
Australian?
musical. I know that you live with a musician, so it's kind of really different. But there's only a few musicians I really get, you know?
Yeah. Well, it is so different than we're visual people,
Yeah.
but I always think it's fun, that part where you put the
I
music
like that
on.
part. I like feeling
Yeah.
really, really like, you know, in their hands a little bit. And
Yeah.
I think I talked about it at one of the screenings in the process, which he really creates a palette of instruments. And it's a little bit like how a production designer might work. That's how he goes. And
does he give you different pieces and then in the edit you figure out where to put them, or does
he gives you, he makes it. He first of all
gives you a bin of stuff,
discusses like the palette, like instrumentally, what he's thinking.
Yeah, that's very abstract to me. Like I know what I like, but it's to describe the sound.
Well, I didn't really, he'd say horns, and I go, oh yeah, good,
sounds good. Yeah.
And violas will actually do know what they are. So, so I had a friend that played it. And then there was the mechanical piano, which is like a very unusual thing that was, how was it done? Digitally created or something? Like played so fast you couldn't really work out what it was. And he wanted to play with that. And look, honestly, I just went like, you should do whatever you want, Johnny. And, thank you. And
it's the best to have someone that you admire and trust.
And just he created a suite of different pieces, like about 30 or 40.
Wow. And then you guys would try them as you were.
Yeah, that's right. We just tried them, and then they became like really linked in and embedded in it. I mean, it's really horrible if you use tent music,
Yeah.
Something goes on where you sort of fall in love with the way a piece of music hits all sorts of little moments in the visual storytelling, and it's so hard to have it wrenched away later.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Your whole brain is sort of
it's gotten too
embedded
tight
with it.
Yeah.
So it was super nice to work with.
You had it during the edit. Because I've never done, because there are some composers that they at the final movie they put the music on, which seems like I've never done it that way. But
I did it once that way with Portrait of a Lady, because Michael Nyman in the end didn't do it, but he hadn't done the suite of stuff or anything as well. And that was Wojciech Kieler, who actually did your dad's film Dracula.
Oh,
yeah.
He's
he's a fantastic Polish composer, and he is really kind of a genius, and it did work because of that.
It was a different way of after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, nerve-wracking, but he came up with the goods. Yeah,
that's cool. I wanted to ask, but will someone let us know when we're supposed to switch to? Are we keep talking? Oh, we should go to questions. Okay. And I'm just curious because you've done TV and film, and I've never done TV, and I wonder. People are saying it's kind of blending together with lengths of things. So I was curious, is there a difference, or it depends on how you like? Can you do something just like a long movie, or once you're doing it in TV, does it become a different thing?
Well, we were just chatting about that before a tiny bit, but so it's so obvious to me that everything ends up online anyway. One way or another. And it's sort of about the length then, and the storytelling potential that I think you get out of series, which is really fun.
But do you approach them the same way, or is it different?
I think I definitely feel like in series you can be a lot wilder than you can. For some reason, the feature culture is more conservative, but in the series culture, you can be very crazy. And since I'm a little bit crazy, that was a really nice opportunity to play in that field. And also, I actually love murder mystery stories and all that sort of stuff too. So it's fun to play with that and have an opportunity to try out lots of different scenes. So that was what I enjoyed about the series. What I didn't like about it was so much freaking work,
It seems tired. Did you direct all of them?
No, I didn't direct them all. I mean, I'm a great believer in collaboration. And so I collaborated on the writing with Jared Lee and collaborated on the directing on both series with Garth Davison one and Ira Klein on the other. And they're both like fabulous filmmakers who I learned heaps from.
Oh, that's cool. But it does seem like a big undertaking.
It is a big undertaking. I mean, people that do like 8 hours themselves and even the writing themselves, they're just dead at the end. I tell you, it's like, I think it kills something off in them. It takes them a few years to get over.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of really clever about that. I didn't like to hurt myself in that way.
Wait, is there any way that you protect your spirit when you have to deal with like financing and the business side and also being an sensitive artist? How much do you get involved in that part, or is there anything?
It's really hard not to get involved somewhat, So
You send Tanya out.
then Tanya to go and get the money.
Yeah. But you're involved with
You have to,
everything.
you
Yeah.
have to turn up so they can see you're not
Yeah.
demented yet. And
That's true.
you can,
that they can trust
still put
you.
a conversation together.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe not on drugs or anything or whatever. But,
Well, I wanted to ask you about.
But to be honest about it, like I have the convenient personality that when I'm, like I'm a bit of a Pollyanna, like I'm really hopeful.
That helps in filmmaking.
Yeah, I think so. Like I think things are going to go well,
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I'm really enthusiastic. And the time when I get really scared is like when you have to, show it to people.
Yeah.
I think it's totally scary because,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're putting it out. Yeah, that is.
And you
good.
are putting it out before it's kind of finished to get feedback, and it's super
Yeah.
important, I think, for all the filmmakers in the audience. Are
to
there any?
To show it unfinished.
Yeah, like to. Only one.
Yeah.
Right, fantastic. I think it's just like to build those muscles to be able to hear feedback, because it is a chance to fix it, right?
Yeah, I feel like you feel it when you're in the room of what's working,
true.
what isn't. But it is hard to hear feedback, but it's helpful.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. The feedback itself isn't as important as the energy in the room that you can feel when it's lagging and people aren't with it.
Were you able to have an audience while you were working on this in such a close up?
Tanya watched a lot of different cuts, and so did the other producers, and of course the editor, and like we were really relying on each other mostly, till we got it to a certain point where you just felt the energy pick up and the tension in the story. It's like pulling a tennis shoe tight,
Yeah, it is so mysterious how movies sort of just come
Suddenly,
together at some point.
And you think like, well, could you pull it even tighter?
Wow. The tension is so good and it's so uncomfortable, and you really feel like you're there with them in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember there was one time when we were watching it, you just get it slowly tighter together, and you just, I could feel my toes curling, and so like, oh, this is happening for me.
Yeah.
I hope it's happening for someone else. And I remember that, the lights going up, we all went like, I think this is it. It's starting to happen. But, then you go like, oh, now the front's too long. We have to go and fix that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that sort of stuff. But my editor's so great. He just like keeps it all really light, and he goes like, oh, yeah, okay, we'll get a bit of stuff out of this. Don't worry about that.
That's good. And do you know when you're done, or is it hard to know when you're done?
It's a really interesting question. I always feel like I do know when I'm done, but then sometimes other people tell me I'm not done. and could be better,
Yeah.
What about you?
I can't remember, but I think it's hard. I asked friends, like my friend Tamara Jenkins here, ask friends and look at it, and it's hard to know.
I mean, it's the only moment they can really be honest with you, because once it's finished, they're going to say like, oh, it's a pity you
can't
make
go
it
back.
a bit shorter.
Yeah. So no, it's helpful to show people that you
and
that you
they
trust.
know that things can still be done to it at that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But often the things that people say are like, it's actually something like
you to interpret
scenes earlier that actually you have to be like
analyze what they're saying.
Diagnose.
It doesn't mean what necessarily
what they think.
Yeah.
But that you've got some things that you can tweak that will make a difference.
Make that effect. Yeah, that is a way to interpret. Okay, we're gonna take questions. I just had a quick one about when you said you loved those group of cowboys. I loved the gang of cowboys, and I remember on top of the lake there was like a band of like cool dudes. Like, is that something? Like, did you grow up with like a gang of cool guys, or you just like having cool dudes around?
I went to all girls school.
Okay. I love the cowboys swimming with their hats over them.
They're so innocent, and they're
and
I mean, they were gorgeous guys anyway, and
it's fun to have some cowboys
like
around.
A Greek chorus,
Yeah.
And like a very different energy to innocence to like they're just enjoying their life on the ranch, thinking Phil's great, and and, just a little uncomfortable when he was riding past them when they were nude swimming or whatever.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, but they were in the book as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I love that period. I mean, I just found these pictures of these cowboys from 1925 that really got me going with them, and the big woolies, which are those sheepskin things that they wear, and with actually striped jumpers on. So very different than the look that we traditionally think of John Wayne movies.
Yeah, I liked
stuff.
his fringe.
And they look like satyrs and like animals, half animals, and I think they're really cool.
Yeah, they look cool. It was I never saw that. I loved his the fringe. Okay, well we will I'll share Jane for if anyone has questions.
Oh my God, that's so lovely.
I was like, it's only 6 episodes, and then there's 4 episodes in the next season.
I think there was just 2 seasons, and they were both 6. So, there might have been 7 in America.
America is
7, yeah. I mean, it's just such a lot of work. I mean, for your party, I mean. But and I'm so grateful that you enjoyed them like that, and I would love to see them go onto Netflix or like a online carrier that's a little more.
Maybe your collaborators can keep it going.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. They've got their own stuff, their own fish to fry.
Yeah.
But I would have loved it to be on something like Netflix, where I think they'd have more presence. I'd love to, I wish they'd go and buy them actually. And Netflix. Yeah. Because I still think they haven't been seen that widely at all. Yeah. I do love that show. Yeah. But thank you. Right now, the first thing I'm going to do is like a pop-up film school. So for free. Yeah. I really hate how, how people talk about the environment is like degraded, but I also think the educational environment is degraded as well. Like when I went to film school, we were actually paid to go, not very much, but we were paid to go, and it was free. And like,
I'll join you at your
like
pop-up
I
school.
want that for people now. I really.
I'll be there. I'll join you.
Well, maybe we'll, I will try a pilot, and then, get you to do one, and I'll come join you, because it won't take you forever. No, not online, but my idea is that you do like you have say 10 students, and they come every get together every couple of months, and they have like challenges. So it's just like facilitating them finding their voice, like projects that will help them, find their voice and do things. And I could see it being done in a lot of different ways, but I just can't wait to start.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
you'd like sign me up.
Yeah, cool. Great, thank you.
I don't know how to teach.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working for free because I just want to give back now. That's a big deal for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll join you. I don't know how to
They'll
teach.
Get paid, I won't. Yeah.
Netflix can sponsor it.
Well, yes, Netflix aren't sponsoring it, right? Is that true? Yes. Yeah,
you're doing it, really?
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah, and New Zealand Film Commission are going to step up too.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'll totally help if I can.
Kate's just a legend, as we know. She's a really amazing energy and a beauty. I mean, it was.
Did you first see her in Heavenly Creatures? Is that when you first saw her?
Yeah, I think probably there. But she's a great actor. She's just a really, really great actor. And, I think we're only still seeing the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, the Titanic capacity of Kate Winslet. Yeah. Yeah, I really think she's extraordinary. Yeah.
Do you still struggle with that?
No, I just didn't know there was a difference between, like if they were filling a frame, they're all like, that big, right? It was like just that naivety. I think I didn't understand the different qualities of lenses really, and I mean, do we use a lot of wide shots? I mean, we often would shoot from a long way back, to give ourselves a wide shot with a longer lens as well. Was probably more what we did, right? Yeah. Because like stacking up stuff in a big environment is, like we did that a lot on the piano. Like I learned from Stuart Dryberg about that. Like it's really hard to cut with wide shots when like everything's in focus. In between shots, so like if you've got these long lenses, then you're picking out the people, and it's much easier to cut between them. And
sounds good.
I
love the last shot.
Yeah,
how you kind of wrap up the whole story in that last shot. Was that designed to be the last shot?
Yes, it was designed to be. That's one shot I could actually work out.
Yeah, it was great.
There's a few shots in that end section I just knew how to do.
But the last one really is
Yeah.
poetic.
I think you got it there.
Did you plan that?
I think, like there's a couple of things happening there, wasn't it? It was summer. And you talk about it, Aaron.
Yeah. We definitely thought a lot about colour. I think that's one of the main things we spoke about in general.
Colour Nazis, really.
Yeah. Just a year of talking about colour, what are the colours going to be. And
Like hating green, and then we ended up loving it. It was like weird.
yeah, we had a green allergy that we both shared about how we're going to get green out of the film.
Like
How can we not
a bit
shoot
difficult
green?
with willow trees and grass.
Yeah, but it's true that those scenes had a whole different
Yeah.
feeling because everything else was
Well,
dry.
I think what we ended up feeling like, this was a sacred place. This was a special safe zone where it was sort of lush and
the opposite of the dry
and
ranch.
private, and opposite of the dry ranch, and it was like it was watered. It had the vitality of the river, and a sort of a beauty that that he could trust. There was a little spot near a place that I live in Glenorchy that I was, it was like I was mimicking it, with that bigger area. Like I took some photos of it, and it was just like, it's the sun coming down onto the grass, feeling so beautiful and secret. And, like, I don't know, as a teenager, I was always looking for places to lie down and kiss boys, And so it was like, finding a place like that, Like your parents drive you along and they're thinking, I don't know what you're thinking about, but I'm looking out the window saying, oh, that's a good spot. Well, actually, it used to be that I used to pretend that I was riding my horse and that every time we come to a fence, I'd go, over the jump, And it turned into like finding good spots for kissing.
Sneaky. Yeah, well, I had that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.